So we're going to have a little talk about free roaming cats. I live in Arizona and I'm from Michigan originally, and I've been out in Arizona for over, 20 years now, right? 21 years, wow. And I tell you what, I have never in my life experienced this free roaming cat thing until I moved into Mesa, Arizona. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I don't think a lot of people really understand the whole thing with free roaming cats, because a lot of states don't have the issue that Arizona has with them. And I want to cause it, say, an issue. I mean, they're animals, they're cats, okay? Like a dog. But the problem with it is, well, I want to say a problem. I mean, we have a lot of it comes from abandonment with the cats. That a lot of the snowbirds come and they dump and leave them and they abandon them, and that's how we end up getting free roaming cats. We're talking a lot, okay? But anyway, they just keep multiplying and reproducing and multiplying. When my husband and I moved into where we're at now, we had a situation where we were introduced to the free roaming world of cats and also introduced to the laws. In Arizona, free roaming cats are protected by law, which really don't mean shit because they don't do anything. But you wouldn't think, I mean, you would really, I guess, on a common sense level, you're like, really? They have laws about it? Why would they have to have laws about free roaming cats? Well, probably because there's a lot of really shitty people out there. So the truth is in the laws, it's illegal to abandon a free roaming cat. Like literally abandon a cat is illegal. And it's also illegal to take a cat and remove it and somewhere out, like out into the desert or something like that. And of course, your normal animal cruelty laws. Recently, there was a lady in the news here in Arizona that was arrested on animal cruelty for dogs. And there was enough evidence to arrest her. And she apparently had a diary, and she was writing in her diary talking about how she was killing these dogs. And it was thrown out. She was never charged, never convicted. And there was like really, there's a, if you look, I can't remember her name, and maybe I'll put it up on screen, but there's a, not a GoFundMe, but there's a petition going around big time about people wanting to sign this petition to get her charged and arrested for animal cruelty. And this is where we come in with animal cruelty, is because nothing ever gets done. They look at animals as property. When you look at something as property, they don't give a shit about it. And that's really the bottom line with it. I actually had a cop tell me straight up that you could, if you're just sick and tired of your dog, you could take it out in the desert and shoot it in the head, and nobody's going to give two shits about it because it's just property. It's like a VCR. He compared a dog to a VCR. And that's how a lot of people are, and that's how they look at it. Well, the animal lovers, the people that actually love these free roaming cats, we have a system in Arizona. We have a TNR program, which is trap, neuter, release. And then we have colony caretakers here in Arizona. And really how that is people go out, and this is all volunteer. They do this all on their own. And they go out, they trap the cats, they get them fixed, and then they release them back to where they found them. Because cats colonize, and then they get into a colony, and they're not reproducing, and all is well, right? Well, all is well until people get pissed off and they get sick of the cats and they start shooting them or trapping them, throwing them out in the desert. The colony caretakers now go out and they feed them and they water them and they take good care of the cats. Talk about cats. You want to come up here? Well, come on. Come on. Come on up. Along with this being such a big deal in Arizona, we have our, groups, our cat community groups, and there's quite a few. I don't need to name them, just look up groups. And these groups are designed and meant to be a place for people to go that need help with either trapping a cat or getting it fixed, or if it's sick, recommending vets and all that. And what I have found through my own experience with these groups is, unfortunately, is they really don't do much of anything anymore. I don't know, maybe at one time they were good groups. But when I first got introduced to the cat world, the feral cat world, I had a lady that abandoned a whole bunch of them, and 3 of them are pregnant. And I reached out to these cat groups asking for help. Now, mind you, I had no clue. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea how to trap them. I didn't know anything about the feral. I mean, a cat's a cat. I didn't think, I mean, just walk up to it, pick it up. Well, and I needed help. And I got no help, nothing, no help from anybody. Instead of helping me, all they did was complain and bitch about what I wasn't doing to help them without giving me advice on how to help them. And that's what it turned into. So I kindly just removed myself from the groups. I wanted no part of it. I ended up meeting a lady who is a friend at this point who actually did step up, because there are good people. So don't get me wrong with that, but they're very, very few and they're hard to find. But I did find a couple, and she actually stepped up and helped, and we got all of them trapped, and we got them all fixed and had a great little colony over there. The thing with the groups, with these communities, because this is really kind of a big thing in Arizona, is that people that really do care about them, they just can't, maybe for allergy reasons or certain things, they can't have them themselves. They reach out to these groups because they need advice, they need help. And the minute somebody says something like, well, if I don't get any help, then I'm just going to have to release them or let them go because of one reason or another. But it's their way or no way type concept, type thinking. So if I don't follow these rules, and you get in this cat community, you find that all these layers of these people involved in this, they all act on a very ego-driven thing. Like, I do more than everybody else. Look at me. I trap more than you. I fix more than you. I'm better than you. And it really just becomes a bantering, catty, really ridiculous group that most people that are serious about helping the feral cats have no time or patience for. But what bothers me about it is when they get into the mob group mentality and then they really set out to hurt and destroy people that do have a good heart and that really are trying to make a difference with the feral cats. And this would probably lead me right into Delightful Days. And I did a video on that, you can see it. And I'm bringing this back up because I really think it's important in the cat world. A lot of people just do not understand how this works in Arizona. But the thing is why does it have to work that way, right? I mean, our first cats that came to us came from a feral, and we ended up taking the litter in, and I was criticized and ridiculed because I didn't get them fixed before I gifted them out. So I had friends that wanted kittens, and I gave them the kittens. It was their responsibility to get them fixed. Remember, everybody was giving me a hard time about that. And then a hard time also for not having them vaccinated. Well, I never even honestly have ever heard of getting a cat vaccinated, and none of my cats ever in my life have been vaccinated. So therefore, I wasn't fitting into their little bubble of their protocol and what is supposed to get done. And then what do? Then immediately they just start criticizing and bashing people that don't do it the way they think it should be done. Where what people are doing, there's nothing illegal about it. They're just doing it their way, the way that they can afford to do it or they're comfortable doing it. Well, Delightful Days, the sad thing with her was that they literally did a personal attack on her, and they had no proof or evidence on anything with her. But she was a young girl that started a rescue and, well, more of a sanctuary. And you would take the cat and surrender, because there's a lot of people that do surrender cats. They can't keep it anymore, move to an apartment, and they surrender it. She charges them for the surrender, and then when she adopts it out, the adoption is free. But then that's the responsibility then of the person adopting to get the cat fixed. But she does her other stuff. Well, she wasn't doing it the way they expected her to do it. And so instead of trying to, or leave her be, just leave her the fuck alone, instead they really, really, really went after her in a very hard, mean, and you know what I'm going to call it is just bully. It's really just this bully mentality. and not allowing people to really think for themselves, because you get in this group and I'm going to tell you something and you're going to believe me. Doesn't mean I'm right or true, but you're not going to look around and do your own research. You're just going to believe it. That's the problem with social media. That's a problem in this world today, is you believe everything you hear, everything that you're told, without backing it up with anything. And some of it you just find out for yourself. You take your chances with somebody that you might think is a good person or a friend and find out no, they're not, and then you learn your lesson. But in the world of social media, and we just watched this really good Netflix, and I'll recommend it, apple vinegar cider, or apple cider vinegar, something like that. It was really good. And this was a really good example to me of what social media does, and this platform that people get on, and they want this attention. And I know you're probably going to say, well, isn't that what I'm doing? I like to think that I'm educating on some level, or giving you people something to think about. That's really it. Just think for yourself. Don't believe everything you hear. I mean, this story was about a girl that said she had cancer, brain cancer, and she never did. It was a big lie. It's a really good story. Check it out. But really, with this day and age, everything is online. So everything, you have your groups, you have your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, all this stuff. And it's so easy to just rip people to shreds and tear them up and be mean. And I'll never understand that mentality ever in my life, because I really think there's no reason for it if you can't talk it through. With the cat stuff, I guess I just learned just to remove myself from all the groups. But when I stuck up for Lisa, and I actually did this video on Delightful Days, because somebody needed to do it. Somebody needed to look at that and go, okay, this is bullshit, what she's going through. I mean, seriously, it was so harsh. I can only imagine that she cried every single day about the things they were saying to her. That it didn't even have anything to do with cats. They were just ripping her apart. You're ugly, you're this, everybody hates you, that kind of bullshit, right? And so I did the video, and guess what? They backed off. They're not fucking with her anymore. All the reviews were bogus and fake. So then they just turn their attention, and then they strike out at somebody else. And apparently that's going to be me. So have at it, whatever makes you feel good. In the book that I wrote, and I'll just wrap it up kind of with that, because I don't want to go. I did a video on reviews and bogus reviews. And again, my book was a true story. It's what happened to my husband and I. It has everything to do with cats, but it also has to do with law and how they failed miserably in it. And how they fail is, if you are going to have a law, then it needs to be put into order. You just don't write a law and then just walk away from it. And the worst thing, I think, with the cats is, because my entire colony was killed, okay? Let me just put it that way. They were taken out, they're gone. No, could I prove it? No, I couldn't prove it. I couldn't do it because I couldn't track the guy. It's a long story. But anyway, I live in a 55 plus community, and that's exactly where it started. It started with this young kid that was only 30 something being allowed to be here. And that's where it started. So there was a lot of places where it failed miserably, and what it led to. And if we don't start standing up for ourselves, talking about the feral cats, and I've really wanted to do that, because you have these groups that act as though they support and they're there to help, and very little people do. 90% of it is spent badgering back and forth and complaining and bitching about one person did, the other person did this, the other person did this, knocking people down. And that will bring me to another girl that literally got dragged through the mud so bad, I wouldn't doubt for a minute if she had seriously considered suicide. It was that bad what they did to her over simple, and I say simple because it was an accident. It was a mistake that every single one of these people have probably made too, because it happens. But they've wanted to hook in on her for some reason, and literally it's so devastating for her. I mean, she won't talk about it. She'll have nothing to do with any of it anymore. And what's really sad to me is that such a big heart and a good heart that all she wants to do is help. But now she will have nothing to do with it. So we just lost a good person because of the mob mentality and the community of women. And it is women. I hardly see any men in these groups cackling and bitching and complaining about everybody else instead of looking at themselves and how what maybe they can do to be a positive in the group instead of just bashing and criticizing everybody. And that kind of is going to just lead me to the end of this, is with the last review on my book that I just got yesterday. And I have to prove it, and I'm just done with the whole thing. But it came from a lady in a cat community group, because Delightful Days is going to carry my book. I will never know. And even though I put it all out there, they still hate the girl. It's stupid. It's stupid. So I get a bad review that's has nothing to do with my book. It's just somebody that it's just a personal attack. And she's been trolling my Facebook, and I finally just said fuck it, and I blocked her. And I always say I'm not going to block people, but you just get to a point where I don't know her. I've never met her. All I know is that this whole cat community decided to fucking come at me after I did Delightful Days. So speaking truth is one thing. They want to live in their delusional world. Fine, live in it. I don't be a part of it. So I still do my part with the cats, most definitely, but I certainly do not get involved with any of the groups. I am a cat lover, but I'm not a crazy cat lady. I'm a lover of animals, period. I love animals, and they should not be considered property. That's what needs to change. That really should change. Animals should not be considered property. They're not property. I mean, I love my animals more than I love people. Just saying it.